overall, it's like the guy can ball. Like, actions speak louder than words. What's going on? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Garage. I'm Chris the Candyman, and tonight is Masters Eve. Happy Masters Week to everyone. And in honor of it being Masters Week, I have saved my very last Albatross draft, and I'm going to do it here live on stream. And so I've entered 149. I saved this one, the best for last. The tournament's about 72% filled, which is about 10% lower than what it was when it closed last year at this time. I'm expecting it to probably get to about 80% over the night. We'll see how many sickos there are out there drafting, probably auto drafting, but throughout the night. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun to draft the Albatross. If I look at my completed drafts, I've maxed the big, the little, did a few Pat Mayo opens, and my first Albatross was drafted, I want to say January. It's taken a while to load on desktop, but did some in February, some in March. My first ones were in early January, going way back. And I've built some super teams over the time. I've got teams from January that you can't get anymore, with maybe 3 or 4 second and third round picks on a lot of these teams that are looking pretty good. And so the plan tonight is to draft one more team, see how it goes. What's up, Huhames? What's up, Daddy? Hope you guys are having a great night. Thanks for joining the stream. Thanks for saying what's up. I appreciate you being here. And yeah, so in honor of the Masters, it's time to kick it off and do one more Albatross. A quick look. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here at my exposures. There's a few players that I'm a little bit lower than I'd like to be on. One of them in particular is Corey Connors, who's come on strong as of late and is qualified for all of the major events. I'm about a little bit under half the field on Corey Connors. 16.5% would be at the field. I'm really high on Billy Ho, Justin Rose, Cam Smith, and Bob McIntyre. I was drafting a lot of Russell Henley when he was a 4th and a 5th round pick. Maverick McNeely, as he was in the later rounds, he's really risen up boards a lot once ETR came out with their rankings. Tyrrell Hatton, I think, has been a cornerstone of my drafts. And then I happened to get a pretty heavy lean into John Rahm. Throughout my drafting, when Xander went down with the rib injury, really leaned into some John Rahm. Yo, what up? How's it going, Dale? Thanks for joining the stream. Appreciate you being here. Hope you're having a great week, my man. Good to see you out here in the streets. And so, yeah, let me know if there's any other questions y'all have about the Albatross. Let me know if you've drafted a few, if there's any players that you really like to see on my final team. Open to suggestions, because I'm just going to get a little bit different in this last one, but tons of Wyndham Clark. He had a neck injury. I think he withdrew from, I forget exactly what tournament it was, but earlier in the season he withdrew. There's some scares, and so his ADP went from about in the high teens, low 20s to the late 20s, early 30s. I snapped him up everywhere I could. Nick Taylor's already won on tour this season. I think he's been a pretty decent pick, someone who I think could score well throughout the major season. Shane Lowry, of course, could be one of the best picks. Should probably be a 2nd round pick overall. And then, yeah, I've got a decent amount of Cantlay. I'm a little bit lower on Justin Thomas than I'd want to be. He was originally a 3rd round pick and is now at the 1-2 turn. So I'd like to have a little bit more JT. I'm a little bit above the field on Scheffler, which is nice, and Rory. Right at it with Colin about. So that is the exposures. let's get into a draft. My final Albatross draft of 2025, and it's been a really, really fun draft season. This is 4 months going strong drafting these. Let's do one last draft. Waiting for 2, but these fill pretty quickly, and there's a lot of people who are either just maxing it or mass entering over the last couple days, and so a lot of these rooms are filled up with 2 or 3 drafters already waiting. Ended up with the 6-7 turn pick, which is good for me because, like I said, I want to get a little bit of JT, and I'm hoping he'll be there. I can grab him with my first pick. And don't really see any familiar names in this draft. I've been drafting this, for a while, and these look like a lot of new names. So I'm excited to see how this one shakes out. I'm going to zoom in a bit more because this is a smaller board, so y'all can see. And yeah, the live players I think are a huge edge in this format, and so I typically go with at least a couple of them. If you're following off purely the official world golf ranking, then you might not be as high on the live players who don't get those official points in their events. But if you're kind of following the live tour, the DP World Tour, some of the other smaller tours, like the Asian Tour, then you get a few other names and you see a couple other events that kind of factor into the players that are going to be in these majors. I haven't been drafting any amateurs. I think that's pretty tough to expect them to place well, to score well, to even win it is pretty much a long shot. So drafting a few newcomers in these events, debut players, but really going with the tried and true veterans. I think Oberg's a pretty interesting pick. I think he should probably be a second round pick, but he's been going in the first round the entire contest practically. So you can't really argue with the ADP there if you want to get any of them. I'm expecting to see Jon Rahm go here. And I'm going to go ahead and queue up. Could be Xander. I would expect Xander's going to fall to me. DeChambeau. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to go Justin Thomas. I've got tons of Rahm. I'm going to take Xander as well. Xander was the reason why people won this tournament last year. Xander had gone on to win the Open and had won 2 majors last season. Justin Thomas is due. So I'm going to skip Rahm, which I normally don't do. But definitely want, now that we know that Xander's fully healthy and back to playing and kind of getting and rounding into form, I do want some exposure to Xander. He's in his prime window for winning majors. He won 2 majors last year. Keep it rolling. I'm betting on that he'll at least place really, really highly across all of the major events. And then Justin Thomas, of course. So a quick flip. Now, this is actually great that I'm on the turn. I can flip over here to, I think it's showing, but I can kind of move it. Let me pull open Xander on Data Golf, which is one of the resources I use. I'll bring it down a little bit, and then I'll zoom in. Okay, so Data Golf, if you're not familiar, it's probably one of the best free resources for tracking players, metrics, and you can see we've got like their spider chart for where their skills are, how they compare to the field. So winning the PGA and the Open Championship last season was a breakthrough season for Xander. He's right in his prime winning years. He's a 7-time PGA Tour winner, Ryder Cupper, Prez Cupper, Olympic medalist. It's exactly the kind of profile you want to be going after. We look at Justin Thomas, who is also a 2-time PGA champion, last time in 2022, and has won the Players, 12-time PGA Tour winner. He's got an incredible chart. And he's kind of, the last time he won a major was in 2022 when he was, on top of the world, really. And he's kind of getting back to that point. So just comparing those two profiles, I think a Xander Justin Thomas start could easily be what you need to win this event. It's kind of hard to go wrong in the first two rounds, but going for Oberg, that's kind of a riskier upside pick with a new guy who's unproven, really, even though he did well in his Masters debut last season. I think Shane Lowry could easily be a second-round pick. Hatton's another guy who's trying to get his first major win. Cantlay's trying to be and get his first major win. I think Cantlay's another great pick. Could have a season like Xander did last year. Niemann goes at the 12-13 turn. I think Niemann's a good pick there. He's trying to do the same thing. Henley, Clark. I'm going to take Connors with one of these picks because, like I said, I was going over my exposure. I'm a little bit low on Connors, and I think he's worth having. He was a good pick last year. He can finish well in these major events. He can contend. So what I'll do is I'll go. It's really if I want to get Henley again, Sepp, Cameron Smith, Finau, Clark. This is all the same tier for me. But at the top of this tier, I've got Henley, Cam Smith, and Clark. I have Connors, Sepp Straka, and Finau at this bottom of this tier. And so I'm just going to mix it up. And I think I do want to take Henley here. He's been playing pretty well. Let's grab Henley. He'd be searching, him and Connors are both searching for their first major win, whereas Cameron Smith has won the Open. Wyndham Clark has won the the U.S. Open. And so let's take a look at those profiles. We can look at, I don't think either one of them is going to be there. Let's look at Connors and how he's playing. He's 21 in the world based off Data Golf rankings. He's 13th overall, and he's 6th in the FedEx Cup points. Really good looking spider chart. 2-time PGA Tour winner. Although both of his wins are at the Valero Texas Open, where if I'm not mistaken, didn't he just miss the cut there? No, it was T18. But so he's playing well. He's kind of in good form for the Masters, where he's traditionally played. I was thinking of Sam Burns, who missed the cut. He's traditionally played pretty good at the Masters. He has a T6 in 2022. That's a great finish. And a T9 at the U.S. Open. So Connors could be a good pick. Not the best pick in that tier, but he's still in his prime winning years. If we look at the other pick that I selected was Henley. Henley's impressive. 7th in the world, 3rd in FedEx Cup points, 6th in Data Golf rankings. Not the furthest driver of the ball, but super accurate, really good around the green, really good approach, decent putter, 5-time PGA Tour winner. Recently won the Arnold Palmer Invitational, which to date is his best win, and that was earlier this season. So he's kind of on a hot streak. That's a great win. It was very recent. He did fine at the Players, didn't have a good result necessarily, played good at Pebble Beach. And when we look at his track record for recent majors, he's right on the cusp, right? A T4 at the Masters. Follow that up with 5th at the Open last year and a T7 at the U.S. Open. Henley could be due for his first major win. So that's why I'm leaning into Henley. I think he's a great selection in this contest. Kind of bummed that Wyndham Clark didn't come all the way back around, but I wanted to push him. He, for a while in this tournament, was going in that low 30s range, so it made sense. If I look at the teams right now, I think Jordan Spieth is someone I've been lower on because he's not really having a great career year, but is a great pick. One of the best golfers to ever play at Augusta through his career so far. One of the best scorers there, can really tear it up out there for good and bad. Zalatoris goes, that's another upside pick. A player who does better in the bigger events, but has been struggling a little bit lately. I'm going to go with at least one share of Minwoo Lee, who recently won in Houston. and also is looking to be a up and comer, looking to win his first major. I don't know that he can win a major this year, but I think he can contend, and so I'm excited to see what he can do. It's a fun pick. I'm a little bit lower in my exposure to him at pick 31. I don't think it's Aaron Rye. Sam Burns hasn't been playing great. I think it's Tom Kim. It's either going to be Tom Kim or Matt Fitzpatrick, and I can try to push Fitzpatrick. He's not having the best year. He's going a little bit undervalued. He's a previous major winner, U.S. Open winner. Tom Kim is an up and comer. He's finished as good as second at the Open before. He's really been someone on the cusp of a breakout. So if we flip back, let's look at the profiles of those two golfers. So first up is Min Woo Lee, coming off his first win on the PGA Tour. But I mean, he was one of the top U.S. amateurs a few years back. He's still a bit young, but he's doing very well in terms of FedEx Cup points, international tour. He plays some of those events. And then he's right there, 23rd in the world right now. His strength is going to be his around the green and his putting. They call him Dr. Chipinski for a reason, because he knows how to get the ball in the hole from off the green. And he's got a really, really big kind of social media following. He's got a lot of hype behind him. He's definitely one of the characters in golf right now that's fun to follow. Also played in the TGL League. So, even though he's pretty young, he's already got a T5 at a U.S. Open. And I think he's had a pretty good result. T14 at a Masters before. So, T22 last year. This is a guy that's on the cusp of a breakout. Really well at the Players, which is one of the hardest tournaments to play well at. Matt Fitzpatrick still there. And then the other player I had was Tom Kim. Tom Kim is very young, 22 years old, 3-time PGA Tour winner, and has finished second at the Open as recently as 2023. So he's a little bit more of a riskier pick for some, but I think he does best, in these tougher events. Just hasn't had a really great year so far in the last couple of months. So people start to fade him a little bit. If Matt Fitzpatrick makes it back, I'll be excited. Mav McNeely is a guy I'm really high on. Justin Rose, of course, is another great player to add. Adam Scott is fun. He is a Masters champion. Detry's an up-and-comer. Detry's been a pretty good pick. I could take Detry here as well. It's him or McNeely if you're going for more of these young up-and-comers. I've got a few of those guys on my team, though. I've got 2 veteran major winners, 2 kind of veterans who's looking for their first major wins, 2 young up-and-comers. I think what I'll do is I'm going to go, and we see Brian Harman, who just won last week in San Antonio. He goes off the board. He's won the Open. He's a major winner. McNeely's got a lot of excitement behind him. I'm definitely going Matt Fitzpatrick. Regardless of how he's playing, major season just brings out a different side of these golfers. If I look at ADP instead of my ranks, it's still highlighting all these guys I have in this tier. I'm going to go ahead and go with, I kind of want to lean into Justin Rose. He's had a bit of an up and down season, but he is one of my most drafted players. He's a cornerstone veteran, on the older side, but he's kind of a timeless player. Let's look up those 2. So Matt Fitzpatrick, I think it was 2022 that he won the U.S. Open, right? He'd won 8 times on the DP World Tour, which is the European Tour. He's a Ryder Cupper, U.S. Amateur, a couple years back. So he's got this major win. Look at his career arc, though. He's been trending down. He's had a rough go the last 2 seasons, really. So that's a bit concerning. That's why he's falling in these drafts. But I think he's the kind of guy that can still bounce back and show up in a major, show up in these tougher tournaments. Last year, T22 at the Masters, could be better, and then didn't finish strong after that. But previously, this is a guy who's knocking at the door at each of the majors. So he's shown his ability to finish in the top 10 across all the different majors, including winning the U.S. Open. Definitely a guy that could take home another major. And then Justin Rose is just consistent. He's a bit on the older side, right? But he won the U.S. Open in 2013. He's got 10 PGA Tour wins, a great career, and he's still putting up a fight. He's a little bit further behind in the data golf ranking, 39 overall in the world ranking. But if we look at where he's placed this season so far, a T8 at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, T3 at Pebble Beach. Those are two very hard golf courses with very deep, good fields to beat out those players. He finished tied second at the Open Championship last year, and he finished tied sixth at the PGA. So this is a guy that, yeah, he might take a cut, but he could also easily finish in the top 15, maybe even top 5 in one of these majors. So I'm betting on Justin Rose to keep it going. I think he's still got something left in the tank. Yo, what up, Harmon? Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you being here. Hope you're having a great week, my man. 2 picks left. And how are we going to wrap this one up and get a little bit different? I think Laurie Cantor, who's currently number 1 on the DP World Tour, he's about ranked 50 in the world overall in golf, even though he's not explicitly on the PGA Tour. He's qualified for the Masters. He'll be a debuter at the Masters. He's played at the Open the last couple of years. He's had 2 top 25s at the Open. So he's a strong links golf player. He's also going to qualify for the PGA Championship and the U.S. Open through his world ranking. Most likely he'll maintain that. So I think he's a guy that I'm going to go with. He's a little bit different. Not a lot of people are drafting him. His ADP is 58.2. I was drafting him a month ago when his ADP was pretty much 59.9. I was the only one taking him for a while there. Pavon is interesting. He's a PGA Tour winner. So is Nick Taylor. Taylor's got to win this year. Pavon does not. I might go Nick Taylor here. I might scroll a bit down. I was thinking about potentially going with Dustin Johnson, but he was taken earlier. Could have gone Cam Young. Cam Young is going to miss out on some of these events because of his current world ranking. He's fallen off a bit. So I think Laurie Cantor is going to be my scroll down guy. Nick Taylor is going to be one of my other kind of staples of my drafting season. We'll do a quick review of those profiles and look at some of these other picks going off. So Dustin Johnson, I've seen him go undrafted. I've seen him go in the 9th or 10th round. I think when the tournament started, he was ADP 40. So going here, but he's been terrible this season on the Live Tour, not really doing much. But hey, it's who can show up at the big events. He's already won these events, multiple major wins, just kind of out of his prime by about 5 years. Let's take a look quickly at Laurie Cantor and Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor and Corey Connors, 2 Canadians on my team. So it's good to mix it up and get some international players. Nick Taylor is, I would say, kind of at the peak right now of his prime, and 31st overall in the world, 16 in FedEx Cup. He's an accurate player, but not a really far driver, and putting can be hit or miss. When his putting is on, he's won 5 PGA Tour events, pretty impressive and very consistent. He won the Phoenix Open last year, the Phoenix Open the year before that in 2023. He won the Sony in Hawaii, which is not the hardest tournament to win, not the best field to beat, but he did it win this season, and he's got a few other nice wins over the years. So a consistent achiever, and this is a guy that can go out there and easily finish, top 10, top 15 against some of these more difficult fields. If we look at his majors track record, pretty bad recently. He kind of gets the nerves in some of these large events, and I think that's why he goes in the last round. He's got a T29 at a Masters a few years ago, but I think this is a guy that can get his putting in the right spot and can really heat up and contend. I don't know that he's necessarily a guy that can win a major this year, but he's going to be in all of them. He's already won on the season this year, and I think he is kind of in the peak of his career. So if he's going to win something and surprise, he's going to do it potentially soon. Now let's look at Cantor, who Cantor could end up being a bad pick for all of the majors except for the Open, which is what I'm trying to lean into. And I think Nick Taylor, his profile also kind of leans into potentially doing better at the Open at Royal Portrush this year, because he's not really the longest driver, but he can get he can kind of do it with his approach, his ball striking. Laurie Cantor, he's also in the prime of his career. He's the number one player on the DP World Tour. That's the European Tour. He's number 50 in the world, and this is the best that he's ever played. He's peaking right now. Not a lot of people are on to Cantor, and the reason I discovered him, I do watch golf, but I don't really watch the DP World Tour so much. He has already won an event there. He's has 2 other top 5 finishes on that tour, and if we look at what he's done, he's only really ever contended at the Open, but each of the last 2 seasons, a top 25 and a top 17 finish. I think he's consistently kind of improved and is someone that could surprise and really do well at the Open, put up maybe one of the low scores on a day, and is someone to watch. He's also kind of a hometown favorite, being from the UK. I've got a bunch of different guys from the UK on my team, including Cantor, Rose, and Fitzpatrick. And so having that mix of Americans, Canadians, Australian, and guys from the UK, I think you get a good mix because we're going to be playing a lot of these events in the United States, but then the Open will finish across the pond, and you want to have some guys who feel at home and have the crowd behind them there. Phil Mickelson goes in this draft. I don't know that he's a great pick. It's kind of tough, but he is qualified for all 4 events. JJ Spawn, I think, is not really necessarily a good majors pick, but is a guy who's a good season-long PGA pick. Hartman says Cantor is 49th in my rankings. I like that pick. Nice. I like that you got your eye on him. I think, sprinkle him in. I'd have to check my exposure now because that was my very last one. Let me go ahead to my drafts. We'll look at the completed Albatross. I think it takes a second sometimes to reload. Once you finish a draft, it pauses. So that's number 150. We've maxed it tonight. And I'll do a quick look on the exposure. I think at Cantor, I was at 14%. And so I'm not afraid to get I was at 14% when this updates with my latest team. I should be at maybe close to 15% Cantor. So he goes undrafted a lot. It's kind of like taking a player in the 18th round of an NFL best ball draft. And if you're at the field, that means you pretty much have drafted him, 3 times or 4 times as much as people who aren't drafting it at all or rarely. So to me, that's plenty on Cantor. It's not the best bet for advancing. It's a good bet for the Open and a guy who could be playing in his prime, which I'm trying to capture. So I will go back. Let's see. I'm going to call it on that one. It's a short stream tonight, but that was the last Albatross. I've now maxed all of the Albatross events for this year. I'm probably going to do a few more scramble returns off stream to end out my night. And if I wake up early enough, maybe do a few more. I think it closes, though, really early in the morning. Closes at, 6 a.m. So probably won't do any in the morning, but I've done 56. I could easily see myself doing another maybe 4 or 5 tonight and close it out. Okay. Nice exposures. My hearts are Hatton and McIntyre. Yeah, I'll jump back to those exposures for a sec. I was looking at them at the beginning of the stream. Appreciate that, Putt Daddy. Hey, thanks for joining the stream tonight. Appreciate you being here as always. And hope you guys are having a really great week. I'm excited for the Masters. I'm pretty hyped up, in fact. Can throw on my Masters 2012 hat, switch it up, and then let's flip back to So it completed, exposure. I could filter so if I filter, it's a little bit different if I filter out the big albatross, the little albatross. But Bob McIntyre, great pick. I think one of the best picks at ADP. I think he could easily be like a third round pick. He's some guy that can do really well at the Open and is going to also play well at these other major events. So I like that Hartman is in on McIntyre, Hatton, of course. For those of us who follow the Live Tour and just kind of know, it was last season actually that Hatton flipped over to the Live Tour, and so I was drafting him before we knew for sure that he'd be in these major events, and it was kind of a shock. And then for the scramble, I had drafted Hatton in some of my scramble drafts for season long best ball. That's all of the events, and when he went off to Live and defected, that was a pretty big blow. Adrian Meronk went to Live last year. I thought he would have been a great player in season long PGA. This year, I think the only name of note that defected to Live right as the season started was Tom McKibben, who was an up and coming Northern Irish golfer. And so I only had maybe one or two drafts with him in it, but that was someone to look out for. And yeah, good luck to all in your PGA best ball and your Masters bets, your daily fantasy, your one and dones, your pools, any of those other of ways that you're participating in this Masters season. Best of luck to you all. Thanks for being here in the Fantasy Football Garage, drafting some golf, and we're kicking off the season. I'll have more PGA best ball streams later in the year once we get to the Pup Cup, which is, if you're not aware, they do during the FedEx Cup's playoffs. Underdog has an event called the Pup Cup. It's really fun. It's actually how I got into PGA best ball in 2023, I think it was. That sounds about right. When I really started diving in and doing the Pup Cup, it's just the three events of the FedEx Cup Championship. And so as the field cuts down between those events, I think it goes 70, 50, 30, if I'm not mistaken. It's something like that. But it's really fun. It's kind of similar to NFL playoffs best ball, where you could draft a golfer at the end of the draft who makes it all the way to the FedEx Cup Championship, or he gets cut out of the two of the three events because he performs really poorly in the first event. So there's something around players getting cut between the events, the schedule's changing. It's pretty dynamic. It's pretty fun, and also really incorporates a lot of these big popular names like a Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, and those guys. So it gives you another opportunity to draft the best golfers, the familiar names. It's a fun one that comes out during the FedEx Cup playoffs. So that'll be something I'll be looking forward to streaming. And yeah, I'll see y'all on these streets again for some NFL best ball sooner than later. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace out. But overall, it's like the guy can ball. Like, actions speak louder than words.